Hello, DevReach. We're almost ready for our closing keynote. Welcome to the stage, Sam Basu, developer advocate with Progress.
All right. Am I on? There we go. Good evening. We made it. Yeah, we made it through 2 long days and a few workshops, one more coming up tomorrow, but we made it. So thank you, each and every one of you, for coming out and enjoying DevReach with us. These next 2 hours are going to be fun. We have soaked in all that we could in the last 2 days. This should be our time to just kind of relax and have a little fun. This is what we lived through all of today. 5:30 p.m. is now. We are going to do our closing keynote and do some prizes, and then the band is going to come back up. We're going to have lots of fun, okay? Now, before we get into that, let's kind of recap a little bit what we did. When we put together a conference like DevReach, it's our goal to share love, share passion, trying to bring together the best of folks that we can, and all of you make it happen. So I wanted to highlight these people, 49 incredible speakers who have poured in all their energy for the last 2 days. So let's hear it once for them, please. Thank you. And if we combine everything from the workshops, the sponsors, the media people, everybody combined, this year's DevReach, we are close to 900 people. So that's incredible, and thank you to every one of you. You make DevReach happen, right? Thank you. Over the last 2 days, we have had a lot of technical sessions, design, UX sessions, and other types of sessions, and we have all tried to soak in knowledge. The last thing we want to leave you with is inspiration, so that when you go back to work tomorrow, you feel energized to use all of the things that you learned, and you feel good about yourself, and you feel good about leading your team, and how you work better, how you collaborate better with your team. So we are all in the software industry. It's easy to kind of get caught up in the fact that what we do with our keyboards obviously makes magic. That's how we make software. But it's also important to remember that we make software for humans. We are making software with other humans. So how we collaborate, how we work with other humans is important, right? And that's what we want to kind of highlight in the closing keynote, and especially as we progress in our careers. How we lead people, how we celebrate the little wins, and how we all work together, your communication skills, all of that matters. And this is why I'm so excited to bring on one of my favorite people on earth. So starting from being a simple, humble girl out of Kansas City, here's a woman who travels the world and inspires software developers all over. And she's the best example that you can get when you really appreciate how well you work with people, and you just keep polishing up your skills and get better and better, and you energize and you get other people excited to work with you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Heather Downing.
All right, round of applause. Who here is a junior developer? Anybody? None of you. You're all experts. Excellent. All right, how about mid-level developers? Anybody in the room? Yeah? No? Great. So this particular keynote is for all the seniors that are left in the crowd. Yeah? So let's give yourselves a round of applause for everything you learned. Yes. Very good. So I'll start this the proper way, with some great buzzwords that you can instantly put on your wall. Kindness, empathy, connection. I bet you're ready to run for the door already. Yeah? I know you would rather have me tell you the best way to do an OAuth 2 connection, which, by the way, I can do for you. I have a YouTube channel. But for those of you who want to know the next step to actually taking care of a team, let's sit down and have a chat. Let's talk about you for a second, okay? I can safely assume that you are competent and worthy of being here. Please do not argue with me. You have paid your dues and worked your way up. So from this point on, we're going to assume that you kind of know what you're doing, whether you feel like it or not. But do you actually remember how it felt when you actually began? I asked this question to a very good friend of mine who does work at Microsoft now, and she said, I don't know. I've been coding since I was 10. It was a long time ago. Do you remember? Do you recall who you were back then? How it actually felt when you first started down this road? Did you think you'd end up where you are now? Are you disappointed? Are you excited? Do you remember the frustration of trying to figure out a new concept without any context to build on whatsoever? I do. The hours that you would spend trying to decipher what programming even was, and you begin to wonder whether you were cut out for it. Remember, you were that person, the one on your team that you are constantly frustrated with that has a million questions. You were that person on your team at every stage of your growth. But then you got something to work. And I remember for me, I was incredibly excited to make a console app that was a old school .NET console app that did a magic 8-ball. And the first time I got it working, that was literally me. I was like, yes, I am amazing. It was incredible. And it was silly. But I had been messing with that thing for 3 days straight. So you know, at that point in time, any sort of positive reaction from the computer was a good thing. After that point, I'm sure, maybe if you can remember back, you were forcibly put in a team with other people. Now you have to socialize. This was the point in which I knew for sure that I had made the wrong career choice. Because think about it. I started out not in code at all. If you read my bio, which you don't have to, I'll just tell you real quick. I actually came working in hospitality. I worked in hotels for many years. I worked everything from Disneyland to an old ice cream shop. I've done retail. I did all this front-facing stuff because I was raised that way, that that's what women did, is that we have a customer service job. But I was so bored I couldn't even handle it, and I was kind of tired of people. And so a friend of mine said, you know, Heather, you should really get into tech because then you don't have to talk to anybody. Boy, were they wrong. Not only did I have to talk to other people, I had to talk to a lot of them, and some of them were on the other side of the planet and didn't really speak my language. Great. So now we're going to add that to, well, I'm just now feeling pretty good about kind of knowing how to look things up over Google, right? Then there's that moment where you're told, hey, you know, you're just a little bit more of a mid-level developer, and hey, we'll pay you just a little bit more money to never sleep. So come work for us, right? This is a very long time in the journeyman phase. If you start out as kind of like that intern, and then you go through the long journeyman to become the master, this is a very long middle section. But we've already determined that everybody in this room is a senior, right? So you guys are all pretty smart. Yep. I mean, you don't really have to wonder if there's a senior developer in the room. It's like a vegan or a CrossFit person. They will tell you they are one. Talk about proving yourself in an interesting way. Is that, like, so what do you do? Like, I'm a senior ... because you have to say that word because you freaking earned it. You had to deal with all those people all those times, and you made a lot of stuff work. You've earned it, right? Good for you. I'm not saying you didn't earn it. But then there are two categories of people that step out from here. The first one still feels like any moment now, something's going to be taken away from them, whether it's their position of authority or their trust. And so they kind of start intimidating others and bullying others to prove that they can interject in a conversation to be of value. But hey, that's actually not the way you should do this. Have you thought about what a monolith really could be? It doesn't have to be a bad thing. You just read too much into that hipster, microservices thing. There are a lot of people that, whether they're right or wrong, it's not about their knowledge base. It has to do with their security level, right? But if you grew up insecure like me, there's only one of two ways you go. You either become a bully, or you feel like any moment, people are going to figure out that you still don't know what you're doing. Okay? That's me, right? People that think that they aren't really a senior, but they're bestowed that title because, I don't know, maybe enough people quit, so guess what? You're a senior now. Or maybe you had the very good fortune of finding the right recruiter or the right place to be, and they believed in you enough to give you that title. That's awesome. Good for you. So now we're all on equal footing. The point is, we all got here, and that's great. Let's pretend for a second you never had anything go wrong. The fact is that results are the only thing that matters in the software industry career. Sorry to tell you, but it's true. Oh, you thought this was inspirational. I'm getting real dark here. In order for results to happen, though, this requires specific behavior on your part. Because humans are not robots, although I really wish they were sometimes. It'd be a lot easier to deal with. I could just make an algorithmic change or two. We cannot be programmed as easily. Humans have emotions which dictate their behavior, unfortunately. So what we're going to go through today is how to get a handle on how to recognize the signs of what motivates people on your team from a human perspective. Because that will come in mighty handy the next time that you're thrown into a position as a dev lead because the one that was there just retired or they moved on. And whether you're ready or not, guess what? You have now inherited a team. I'm really glad that you're a great coder, but now you have 14 people. Those are two different skill sets, right? So let's talk about what it means to even wrap your brain around that. Because in order to get the best team and the best team results, you have to ironically get farther and farther away from what makes you a good developer, because that actually will get in the way. You need to get closer to what makes each person a unique human, and that's the way you win your team. So, congratulations, you get this promotion, whether you put your hat in the ring or not, right? You got promoted. Awesome. Do the people buy into what you have to say and how you have to lead? This is really tough if you come in cold to a team you've never been with, but I think it's harder when you came from a team with a bunch of seniors and you're the one who got bumped, right? You're the one who got that promotion. What do you do about that? So what's interesting about trying to raise a correlation between the two is I think about it the way I think about me trying to go to the gym. I say trying because half the time I'm in another country, so it becomes really difficult, right? But it really is like building a muscle. So when I start, right now I'm trying to lift weights because women lift weights, woo, right? The first time I tried it, I was given weights that I thought were pretty light, so I started lifting them. The very next day, I was quite sore, right? And then the next day, I was told would be better. But it wasn't. No, I was just as sore, if not more sore, because then I kept lifting these weights that my whole body had never done before. And I kept waiting for that moment where I was just going to feel like it was nothing. But unbeknownst to me, what my trainer was doing is that he slowly would give me a little bit more and a little bit more weight, so I was always kind of a little sore once I was done with my routine. I was complaining that I felt like I was weak and I wasn't progressing. What I didn't know is that he never showed me how much weight I was actually lifting. That was something only he was putting on. So then, to prove a point, he's like, how long have you been doing this? And I said, oh, I don't know, about 2 months. He's like, okay, let's go back in. So I went back in, went ahead and lifted a little bit. And he's like, how do you feel? And I said, like there's a catch because I'm not hurting. Because I'm not sore. I'm not suffering. And he's like, right, because that's the weight that you did in the beginning 2 months ago. I just let you lift it again. So what you've been doing this whole time is growing. And it feels like you're not progressing. But I promise you that you are. But remember, leadership is a sacrificial position. It is not supposed to be comfortable. Yeah. It's really inspiring to watch how your team grows. But it is a lot to take on yourself. Do I have any parents in the crowd? Anybody have children? Yeah! Work-life balance. All right. So you guys are parents, so you know this to be true. Whether you're exhausted and tired or not, if your kid is crying in the middle of the night and hasn't been fed, guess what you do? You take care of the kid, right? I'm not saying that adults are like children. I'm saying that we never grew out of being children, okay? We're taller, and we have a lot more to say and a lot more to do, but we're all still with our individual needs. And we spend just as much time with our coworkers as our family. So why do we pay so little attention to what it takes to build this muscle? I'm interested from a technical perspective. I like data. So I went and I talked to several of my friends over most of our social media channels for the past 2 years, and I started noticing a correlation. I asked, what do you want from your leaders? What are you looking for specifically in the development space? So what they said is that they want to feel safe. And when I say safe, that means they want to feel safe that they can fail, that they have a leader that they can confide in and that will believe in them. Because when you feel safe, the natural reaction is trust and cooperation. Then you can get all the other worries out of the way. When you don't fear the leader that you have, then you can combine your talents and face the challenges that come from outside. I mean, if you have a whole bunch of us on a boat in the middle of the ocean trying to build something, but we're too busy picking on each other, we can't really get anything done to our destination. And we definitely can't work together when a storm arises outside and starts tossing the boat around, right? They also said that they want a leader that has vision and higher purpose for their work. That means that the goal is not the project. You can believe in an app all you want, but apps are not long-living goals. Projects are not long-living goals. What you want to build and how you want to build is up to whoever is in charge at the moment. They want to know, what does it sustainably look like to be in this tribe with you? So people want to believe in a mission, something above and beyond the work, because we have to spend all this time together, right? You want a leader who can inspire others to the calling and be part of it. But again, we're asking this of technical people. Remember, all of us were coding, and all of a sudden, now we're the leader. You have completely changed your job title and your entire career alignment. Congratulations. We need you. We especially need leaders that are flexible and empathic during personal challenges. This one has come up a lot more lately because oftentimes people have different things that come up in their home life. Maybe you're like me and you think, I don't really want to know. I hope you're okay, but I don't really want to know because I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how to help you, right? But that doesn't mean you can't have empathy. Because if you had hard times in your family, would you consider firing your family member just because you were going through a hard time? I mean, maybe. Depends on your family, right? But think twice about what's really going on with your employees. If they act a certain way in a certain pattern and suddenly that pattern shifts, something is wrong. Whether you are the source of it or their external family life is part of it, there's something wrong. Never sacrifice people in the name of, there's just too much trouble. Just take the step and take it early, and oftentimes you can curb things going terribly wrong. People will notice and they will reciprocate. So let me ask you a question. Does anything on this list, the 3 things that I showed you, does any of it stand out to you as a personal strength of yours? All my seniors in the room? How about a weakness? Start with a weakness of mine, that's listening. Yeah, listening. A leader doesn't need to have the first word, the last word, or even most of the words. Surprise, surprise. The state of the team will often be made very, very clear when you listen and digest what each of your devs have to say, okay? And not necessarily always jump to take action on it, just to prove that I'm the leader, I must do something about this, right? Many times, developers just need to vent, and you need to let them. That's what one-on-ones are for. Think about it. If you're not getting a one-on-one right now, when do you vent? When do you have time to vent to your boss? So you're stuck in that weird middle part where like your boss is over many other people and doesn't have time for you, but you're supposed to have time for your whole team, right? And of course you're going to because you grew up from the roots up, which is a great way to go. But that means you have no example. You have no idea of what a good leader really is because your boss has no idea what you do, right? Are you noticing the gap here? So you're already put in such a compromising position. I can give you a couple of suggestions. Allow your team members to be the ones to go first in a one-on-one. And after processing what they have said, if an action is required, then do it last. Okay? Demonstrate active listening by repeating what you heard so they have an opportunity to correct it if it was wrong. This right here, this one thing, changed the course of my career. I didn't think that inaction could possibly make me better, but it wasn't really inaction. It was active listening. And once I understood what this was, I took some time to practice it. It really is true. Most times people just want to be heard. So make sure that you start by listening. You will have differences, and that's okay. In fact, it's pretty awesome. I like that I have differences from everybody else. So start with respecting those differences instead of the temptation of telling them that they're wrong, especially because you have so much knowledge in your brain and so much to prove. There is a reason a developer that is not you thinks the way they think and does what they do, okay? If you start with respecting what they bring to the table, it's a lot easier to work through issues. For example, I had a very challenging developer on my team that made sure to interrupt me every time I was talking. Now that is a pet peeve of mine for many reasons culturally, but in this case, it was that he didn't want to necessarily discuss and collaborate. He just wanted to dictate what he wanted the team to do. And even whether he was right or wrong, he still brought something to the table. He brought a boldness. He's like, look, I think we need to do this thing. But he didn't say it, I think we should do this thing. He said, that's stupid. You need to do this. So communication skills being what they are in our industry, I needed to forgive that, which was hard for me to do at first. But what I realized is because I had a lot of respect for this person, because of how much he had done in the Java community, and I didn't know a whole lot about Java, so I was like, well, you definitely have done a lot here. But why don't we just talk about it? And he's like, I don't really want to talk about it. It's obvious this is what we should do. And I said, but now you are depriving all of us from knowing how you got that knowledge. Please, share. And once pressured, he was like, oh, well, it became clear that he was making a lot of assumptions about this team that they didn't want to learn from him, which was incorrect. So he actually softened quite a bit, and we had a real discussion. Every person, though, takes a different kind of hand. That one just happened to be, hey, I see you and I see your value. Please share it, don't just dictate it. Make sense? Another way that you can help is to encourage people. But not everyone is a natural-born cheerleader, and you don't have to be, don't worry. Remember, this is a muscle you're building, okay? Is anybody here born coding, like physically? Like within a day of when you were born, were you coding? No? Then this is not a natural behavior that we do. This is a learned behavior. This is also another one. Being a successful encourager means believing in the ability that the developer has to overcome it, especially when they don't believe in it themselves. You have to see the potential in them and share it often with them in order for them to push through the hard stuff that they've got going on. And of course, recognition. This is an important one. Ranked higher in importance on the list than even compensation, employees in every field are very starved of recognition that they did a good job at something, even if they know internally that they did. We spend so much time, again, with our coworkers. Why would we not treat them with as much encouragement and recognition as we would give our own family? It can be exhausting if you feel that your effort is being not appreciated when you're putting it forth. Especially when you've gone above and beyond, like you stayed late or you worked over the weekend when you should not have had to do that. It's very important that you don't take that for granted as a leader. Appreciate what they did, even if it's just a quick PR that they did. It takes so little time to just say, hey, thanks for getting that in. Appreciate it. Even though it's something that they should do anyway. I promise you, from a scientific standpoint, when you give any sort of little recognition, there's a little bit of dopamine that gets released in the brain. It's a good thing. Then it helps with reinforcement. And then they want to keep doing that thing because they feel appreciated. It's not that complicated. And of course, delegation is key here. So when you're overwhelmed, especially in the beginning, you don't need to wait until you're experienced to start delegating things. Make someone on your team step up a little bit and feel like you trust them to do the right thing, even if you're just building that. Every person will have a different level of confidence here. But some people just need continuous reminders that they have permission to go with their gut. They don't need to call you every 5 seconds. They don't need to call you on the weekend. You trust them to go do their thing. This puts them on more of a level playing field with you. And it gives them a glimpse into what kind of decision-making it would feel like to be in your shoes. So this actually gives them a little bit of a taste of what it would be like to lead without actually having that responsibility. So this is the step where you identify your next leader and let them shine. I would argue that in the first month, you should already be starting to empower the people to do that. Now, there is a difference between empowering somebody to do something that you think they will shine at and being lazy and just giving all your work to other people. Right? I didn't know there was a difference. I thought, I'm empowering people. Psh, it's 2 o'clock, I'm going to go home. That is not what I'm talking about here. It's more like this, especially your mid-level developers, the rung of the ladder right behind you. They feel like they're caught oftentimes in a chasm where they're definitely not going to get to senior for a while. Start giving them small things or homework or little pieces like, why don't you just go take a look at what different kinds of this technology are out there so that we can look at it and see if it would be a good fit. So that's a good way to get them ushered into what it's like to be in a more senior or architectural level position. Give them small things like that. Junior developers, this is really interesting. I was not empowered at all as a junior, and it really stifled my growth for a while. And I now have worked with teams where they did empower their juniors, and this was really interesting. They're the first ones to say, how would you break this? So they got to work with the QA, the analysts, right? And say, hey, how would you break this? And they got to spend a little bit more time outside of their coding position to understand the purpose of what they're building, right? And that's just a little piece of it. Then they started feeling like they can take on some more responsibility because they understood what they were doing. And that oftentimes is a big part of the problem as a junior. So remember, a technical leader will listen and respect, encourage, recognize, and empower people. Right? This is good picture time. There you go. Let's go to my picture time. This is where I was this summer. And this wasn't too far away from here, actually. So for those of you who have not been there, this is the Parthenon, built in 447 BC in Athens, Greece. I had the privilege of being able to talk to one of the archaeologists that had worked on the restoration and the continuing restoration of this building. So let's look at it for a second. When you look at it, even if in its kind of state of disrepair here, it appears to have a perfectly straight set of identical columns that hold it up. But if you look at the plans for this, it's an optical illusion. In order for it to appear straight at a distance, each disk that stacks on each other kind of tapers slightly inward and gets a little slightly smaller towards the top. And then it also kind of leans a little bit towards the inside. So it makes the order that these disks stacked in kind of important, wouldn't you say? Well, not only is each column disk really important for that, they're also compensating for where they are placed on the very slightly irregular foundation. Therefore, it requires millimeters of difference to make each of them join to the roof at the same height. Okay? That makes every single column disk on every column completely unique. Yeah. That's an interesting crossword puzzle there. So what appears to be a section, let's say the top section, that you could easily switch out on one column to the other, is a particular challenge because it doesn't quite fit right. This is how amazing dev teams are built. You cannot just swap out one mid-level developer for another mid-level developer and expect it to just fit perfectly. We are not our titles. We are not just the skills that we've gathered. We are also our backgrounds, where we came from, how we communicate, how we think, our critical thinking skills. There is unique attention required for the individual in order to give them the right place for their talents and mindset. And it's an art. And this is the exciting part of why you get to be a leader, is that you get to find out where they fit in your team to a place where they can really shine and be their strongest. This is where you celebrate people's differences and notice how they can each support the overall team you have built in the area that needs a little more of this or a little more of that. That's pretty cool, right? All right, so now that we kind of looked at the fact that we're all a big, unique set of snowflakes that are somehow piling on each other, let's talk about how you take care of them, right? Let's talk about the care of junior developers. Everything you need to know you used to know when you were a kid. You remember that back then? Yes. You just need to show them how by demonstrating tasks and staying nearby to guide them as they begin. And make sure you let them make mistakes and remind them that it happens and it's not a big deal. Whether you think it's a big deal or not, it's not a big deal. They're juniors, it's fine. Encourage them to get up and try again and not make a big deal out of this. That also brings me to the care of the mid-level developer. Remember, this is the longer phase. The longer phase. This is where you need to support coworker pairing. Because remember, you don't know everything. And it's important to let someone else's strengths that you see on a team at this level complement another. So now you notice that they're starting to contribute a little bit more to projects with consistent results. So now you should generate some confidence by encouraging them to vocalize their ideas and asking them what they think first before you ask the seniors on your team. This is a very big temptation. Because especially when seniors tend to be opinionated, architects tend to be opinionated, we want to just get out our ideas. As a leader, I challenge you, the next time you're in the team setting, when something comes up, ask your mid-level developer first and have them go first. This is how they grow, and they oftentimes will make a suggestion that you didn't think of before. All right, How do we take care of a senior developer? Because remember, now you're the leader of it. You were a senior, now you have to take care of them. You're like, oh, I'll just treat them like I'd want to treat myself. That works as long as somebody else is on your team that's just like you. And sometimes that happens. Oh, you know, the moment where the whole team comes in and then there's the favorite developer of the lead tech. That just gets them. They go to beers together. Yep. It's hard because there's a natural cohesion that happens, right? They just get each other. They don't really have to communicate exactly what they think too much. They just kind of get each other. And that's great for friendships, but for leadership, it doesn't work out very well. You definitely don't want to be the parent that says, you know what, you're my favorite child. Don't do that, parent. It doesn't work out well in the end. So how do you take care of these seniors? You need to allow them time for experimentation away from the group, sometimes with another senior in the group, and then do more autonomous tasks and then ask them to bring new ideas. Bring new ideas, not let's do the thing that you've been doing that you've been trained to do for years. Ask them to bring new ideas on purpose. Even if the new idea is to prove out that it probably won't work. Make sure that they investigate it a little bit more. Have them teaching the concepts to the other developers regularly and showcasing the research that they have. This is a great way to build the confidence on how to speak to a large crowd. I know because I'm here today because a wonderful architect that I worked under said, I really want you to explain to the entire engineering team at our company what it is we built with this Alexa skill thing. And I said, you want me to do what? But that's technical stuff. Like I can read them a bedtime story, but like I don't want to get called out for using the wrong terminology. And he's like, sounds like a good challenge. You never know where things will take you, and this is an important step for them. So let's talk about personalities. We've talked about positions. Let's talk about personalities. The way in which you get motivated and the way that you are happy on a team depends a great deal on who you are, right? So what is it like to take care of somebody who is introverted? This particular personality is one that's near and dear to me because I was born an introvert. I have had to learn how to speak in public. What this really means is that I'm introverted because I don't get my energy from being around people. I get my energy from quiet time alone, reading a book, listening to music. This also makes me a really tough pair programmer. One of the biggest challenges I had in a team was that I was put with someone else for 8 hours to code together. And that was exhausting for me because I was introverted and I needed time to think on my own, right? But introverted people have value. What is their particular value? Well, they tend to be more reflective and they think deeply about problems before they voice them. So if an introverted person actually speaks, you're more likely to be a little quieter and listen because they don't often speak a lot. They just need time to work independently to be able to kind of bring what they've thought about. That brings me to the extrovert. These are fun people. These are someone who gets their spirits raised and energy restored from being with others, right? You probably know this person. I mean, their value is pretty obvious. They're usually like the one to greet the new person on the team. They're also the one to say hello every day to every person on the team, right? There's nothing wrong with this person. They bring a lot of value in lifting spirits, but they also bring a lot of value in voicing things that need to be said, that maybe not everybody's comfortable saying. An extrovert's a little bit more likely to do them. They're everybody's favorite, the optimist. It's important that you try and find somebody on your team to have this role because the optimist is great to be around. They're the one who, no matter how much is burning down on your project, they're like, yeah, but I mean, we still have jobs though. Right? This is great because who doesn't want to be around an optimist? I can tell you who. So you would think, what value does a pessimist bring? They find the blind spots in the situation that other people don't notice. Very important. You can be excited all you want that you're getting ready to launch a rocket to the moon, but somebody's got to be like, yeah, but did anybody check to see if we untethered the thing, or are we going to just take the whole launch pad with it? You know? It's important to have that balance. Somebody needs to think about that. I've also had several sensitive people on my team before, and this is interesting because a lot of them weren't women. And it's totally okay, regardless of your gender, to be sensitive. Oh, surprise. I know. This was an interesting topic. I have coached and mentored female developers, but I probably coached and mentored far more guys. Because these particular ones especially feel for everyone. They're very empathetic. So they're the ones who will notice early that things are going wrong on the team, and you hope that you have a good rapport with that person so they can give you their insight. Because if you're not naturally an empathetic person, it's really valuable to have somebody like that on your team have your ear so that you can kind of gauge the way everybody's feeling, not just about you, but about what the team is doing in general. These are awesome people. Of course, no team would be complete without the bold developer, right? Because their value is that they will always go first when nobody's volunteering. They're like, yes, I'll do it. Yep, that's me, I'll do it. What they really need, their motivation, is they need the chance to lead or take charge. You need to let them shine in a big way in front of people because they're good at that. They're good at being bold. Then there's the visionary. I like to think of these people as the dreamers, right? They can often increase the quality of your projects and the focus on the really big picture because they don't think in the now, they don't think in tomorrow, they think in the possibilities in a much wider net. And oftentimes, your visionaries are your junior developers. Yeah, the ones that are really excited to do this, they think about what is possible all the time. Awesome person. You should never stunt this. Give them room to contribute. Ask them what they think about the situation. And this is a good kind of a person to pair with maybe a pessimistic person so that one person can be like, ooh, yeah, but we don't want to kill people by sending them up in their rocket without the oxygen. So, like, I love your idea, but, you know, they are great to pair together because then a natural overlap starts to happen. A natural middle section of that Venn diagram will start to emerge. That's pretty solid. And of course, my deck would not be complete without mentioning this. This is not a personality type. It could be any one of us. Whether it's a moment in life that happens to every person, or maybe it's somebody who suffers from a medical diagnosis, this is something that you as a leader will run into. Imagine if you were the one that was experiencing this at the same time. So now you're the leader, right? You're trusted with this team, but maybe you are suffering with depression. Or maybe you're not suffering from depression today, but you just had a family member pass away. Or someone you very much love and that knew you really well leave you. So there's a lot of reasons why somebody might be downhearted, and it can last for a day, it could last for a year, it could last for quite a bit of their life. It's important to take the time to acknowledge that mental health is a challenge in our industry, but more just in our humanity. This person might have a different name every day of the week. Think about that. Think about the people near you that have gone through hard things, and it's difficult to know what to say or do. My suggestion in this particular juncture is to remind yourself that you are not a psychologist. That's not what you're trained to do. But you can have empathy, and you can suggest, maybe you can coordinate with your company to see if maybe they can get what they need. It's oftentimes that people don't know that there are resources for help. It's important to also take a moment and realize that if you're having a lot of struggles as a leader, you need to ask for help. I find it easier to ask another leader that's not in your company. Maybe somebody that you know, maybe someone you've met here, right? Maybe another tech lead. Start there and just say, hey, is this normal? Does it always feel like this? And kind of go from there. But make sure you don't let it just sit there. This is no way to be. So I know it's a really touchy subject, but it had to be said. You still have to take care of the people in your team, even if they're having a bad day or a bad life. How you treat your team as a whole is to notice and study their humanity, pay attention, and listen to them. So let's talk about what those tips are. One of the most common desires among developers is a manager who will recognize their abilities and trust that they'll get their work done. So allow developers to do their jobs and write code. They like doing it. You just need to find a way for developers to do this in a way that benefits the company, right? That means that you get to handle all the non-fun stuff. Yeah, but you're getting paid more now, right? Hopefully. You're getting paid more now, right? Yeah. So think about that. You get to attract like a magnet all the things that developers hate to do, but still needs to get done. That's you. You're the magnet. Make sure you're moderately responsive and reachable. And this is an interesting thing. Like some leaders are just like, I've had enough, and go poof. And you don't hear from them for a couple of days, and you're wondering if everything's okay. Please make sure you check in, at least communicate. Hey, I'm going to go offline for a little bit. Just communicate for a second, just for a second. Make no assumptions that people understand what's going on in your head, okay? Make sure that they can reach you. Make regular one-on-ones a priority. Oh, my goodness gracious. Please, if you have to cancel it, reschedule it immediately. Hey, sorry, I can't make this. I'm working on a thing, or whatever it is. Hey, I've moved this to Thursday according to the calendar. Hope that's okay. That's fine. Do not make your developers come to you and say, hey, are we going to have that one-on-one again? Never, maybe sometime. Don't be that guy or girl. Don't be that person. And of course, emphasize quality code over quantity or velocity. Ooh, this is hard. That means we're asking people to go through their career in pursuit of mastery because it will serve them much better. This one's tempting because that's what everybody wants to do. But then you're told you have 2 weeks before a big event and things have to just get up there somehow. We don't really care how good it looks. But that's not the way that you should be teaching your team to be. You can be like, all right, what do we build? We build quality. Okay, so then what are we all going to come back and say? We can do maybe a smaller subset of what you needed by this date in a quality way. And when they're like, no, we don't need that, then we talk about what does that even mean? Can we use something that we've used before that we can ensure is quality? This is a great collaborative opportunity, especially to start asking other members of your team how they would accomplish this goal without sacrificing that. And avoid task switching. Ooh, this was a big one. I worked in a marketing company where we had a ton of different projects that were at different places, and sometimes in the course of the day, I was like, hey, can you just get this one API change out? Great. Can you just make this one Xamarin change? That'd be awesome. And this would all happen within the course of 45 minutes. So here I am pulling different code bases up, and that's where mistakes start to be made because your mind is not really all there. And so it's really important that you give someone time to focus on what they're doing a little bit more. If you can, try to relegate some of that stuff in a daily format, saying today I'm going to work on this code base, tomorrow I'm going to work on that code base. It just makes people a lot more efficient and less error prone. And of course, be the shield for your team when these challenges arise. You remember that Parthenon? What were all of the columns leading up to? They're leading up to a roof. Did you notice what was not on the Parthenon anymore? The roof. So really, your team doesn't kind of need you, but it'd be great to be shielded from the elements, wouldn't it? Right? Be the shield. Remember, you're not the end-all, be-all of everything in the company because you got that title. you are shielding the foundation of your development team. They're the ones who are going to be there after you go, right? I have a quote from you from a good friend of mine that I just had to share, is to trust your team's judgment. Because you might need to step in and make decisions and priority calls, but this will be on the information provided by your team. So if you get this right, you should have a good autonomous and self-directed team that can do this without you. Just like you should be training your replacement. You don't need to hold tightly onto this knowledge that you started to amass ever since you started coding. You have to share it. It makes you even more of an asset, more valuable. So what does the takeaways mean? Please give away your control and create opportunities for others to grow. Developers are self-sacrificial, and they're not very good at making sure they're okay first before throwing themselves headfirst into a problem. And so that's when the exhaustion and the tension follow in the team. So it's your job now to make sure that the people behind the programming have what they need to be successful and balanced. So make sure that your drive is autonomy and purpose and mastery, which sounds really high level, but it is, because guess what? You're all high level now. You are. You've risen through the ranks, and this is a natural part of your growth as well. So allow your team to fail, knowing that whatever you have on the line, you have to put in some safety buffers on the side, knowing that the only way your team is going to be able to hit some of these challenges is to try things that may not work. But make sure that they know that it's okay for them to do that. And then teach others and emphasize that you're still learning. This is probably one of my favorite takeaways, because you get to say, hey, didn't go through a leadership training course, so if something's bothering you, please just tell me on our one-on-one. Like, please, I'm open to it. I also want to learn to be a better leader. This doesn't show weakness, I promise you. This shows that you are open to being a lifelong learner, which is what we all signed up for, right? We signed up for a lifelong learning career. Because it's okay not to know everything. All the importance rests on the shoulders of your individual people, right? Shield and protect your team from what is falling down on them, because you are not holding them up, they are holding you up. It's very obvious to your superiors whether or not your team is doing well. Remember, your team is sturdy without you, so give your team the care that it deserves and the feeding it needs, right down to the millimeter of difference between each person. That means you can't treat everyone like just one disk that's going to be stacked on top of each other. You have to look at their individual needs, and then you can build something really cool. So you guys learned a lot today, right? And yesterday, day before. A lot of amazing people were brought in here from all over the world to teach you new things. So apply the new tech that you discovered here and share better ways to code. Those skills are necessary, but take care that you learn how to truly nurture a team by adding human skills to your future plans. Please. Because with a group of really confident, cohesive developers and a box of Legos, you can accomplish anything, right? Even building your own Parthenon. So go build one. Thank you.
I'm on? All right. Isn't she awesome? Thank you, Heather. You may not have known this, but she flew all the way from Australia just to be with us for a day and a half. So amazing. Thank you, Heather. Now, let's get to the fun part. Let's get to prizes. Good stuff. We have a lot of giveaways, and I need some help. I'm going to bring on Veronica here from Active Verba and our Meryl.